welcome back on the Good Morning Artesia radio show, and we're happy to have with us Sheriff of Eddy County, Sheriff Mark Cage, and we were talking about the employee shortages and stuff, and fortunately Eddy County's in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned. Let me ask you this. You had a chance to listen to some of the legislators speak. The Artesia Chamber had a lunch and learn yesterday, and we do have a legislative session coming up, and I couldn't remember, has the legislature had their special session on the redistricting yet, or is that?
No.
That's coming up.
That's coming up.
So I'm sure that was probably a big topic of discussion.
It was, and, it's going to be, I don't know, they're not even shy about it. Brian Egoff came out and said, our goal is to make Republicans extinct in New Mexico. He said that.
Yeah.
And it was okay. And you're going, well, wait a minute, dude.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. And I mean, I know there's some Republicans that are, the libtards, and we want to get rid of the Democrat. I get all that. I get that there's some animosity there, but when you can't have one side without the other. Honestly, I mean, we know that we're forward-thinking, critical thinking adults, and we realize that there has to be balance. And because when you start getting groupthink, it goes crazy. Well, that's what's going on in Santa Fe.
Right.
And the speaker holds so much power over the Democrats, which are way outnumber the Republicans in the House. Jim Townsend was talking, all of them were talking about it. Catherine Brown, Candy Zell, Gay Kernan, they all talked about it, but especially the representative. They said, we had a majority of the Democrats vote with us on this specific. They voted with us on a specific bill. The speaker calls a recess. They go into a caucus, and they come back out, and they call for another vote. And they all vote the other way.
Yeah. And people forget, in addition to what Egoff said about making Republicans extinct, they also primaried their own. There were some very good moderate or conservative-leaning Democrats in the New Mexico legislature, and they're gone because they didn't want any of that opposition on their side.
We discussed that yesterday.
Yeah.
John Arthur Smith, Mary Kay Papen, they primaried, and they were Democrats, they were moderate, even conservative Democrats. They didn't always vote the way I would like them to, you would like them to, but you know what? They were reasonable, and they wanted to have interaction, and they knew that there was a check and a balance. But that's gone now.
Yeah.
And it shows. It shows, because look at the decisions being made. Look at the horrible laws coming out and the horrible decisions being made, and the citizens are paying for it.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's going to be enough interest in changing things out. I mean, obviously, we're going to have some major elections next year, all the way down to municipal elections that are going to be taking place. And so it's going to be very interesting to see if the voters remember any of the stuff that's been going on the last year and a half with the pandemic, or is this just going to continue on its path? The thing that really, to me, is puzzling is the love-hate interest with the oil and gas industry. And the legislature has a surplus this year, not for anything that they've done, other than Eddy County and Lee County have had some oil and gas activity and been pumping a bunch of money up into the coffers up in Santa Fe. Yet at the same time, we got to grow pot, we got to have windmills, we got to do solar, and we've got to get rid of the oil and gas industry. And so it's really been a puzzle to me. And then we have everybody in Washington that is all focused on uncovering racism in everything, as opposed to uncovering whether it's justice or injustice or economic factors or tax policy or whatever. No, we're looking for racist roads and racist bridges and
that's interesting to me how a bridge can be racist.
Yeah.
I really.
Well, I figured out how it can be. Is that if you have you need to build a road somewhere and you've got a rich part of town and a poor part of town, and then we put the road through the poor part of town.
Oh.
I figured out how they might possibly could justify it.
Well.
And when I was explaining this to somebody, they said, no, that's an economic issue. That's not necessarily. Yeah, but but anyway, I don't even want to justify it. So what do you see from a law enforcement standpoint? What are you hearing in this upcoming legislative session? It's a 30-day session. It's supposed to primarily deal with budgetary issues. So.
Budgetary, whatever the governor calls. And then they can bring up stuff that she vetoed, which isn't a big. I don't think that's going to have a big factor on it. We're just kind of sitting back, going, "Wonder what's going to happen."
Yeah.
We don't know. We've heard that there's going to be some fixes on this atrocious cannabis. Marijuana law that they passed. I mean, you can be for it or against it. I won't even argue that because it is a law and it's here and it was inevitable. But at least pass decent legislation. At least put some thought. And instead of, oh, you didn't pass it, guess what? I'm going to call you back in and we're going to have a special session and spend all this money to come out with a piece of trash law.
Yeah.
That's just.
Because one of the areas I think it's affected things is, like, for example, I don't think Eddy County had one, but most people that had drug dogs.
Yes.
They've had to retire the dogs.
Yeah, they're done.
And get around it. Okay, well, that's, I guess, if you're worried about them hitting on the marijuana, which is now legal, but what about all the other things that the dogs were trained to hit on that we still have determined are bad for society?
For now.
I don't want to laugh at that. But that's one of the areas that's been impacted by that.
It is, and we were invested with Carlsbad Police Department. And we relied heavily upon their dogs, and we have a partnership with them in that aspect with the Drug Task Force. And, yeah, that was a big blow. That's a big financial blow, and nobody cared at the legislature. They're like, oh, whatever, you guys will figure it out. It's okay. I mean, we keep getting fed the same song and dance of, well, we'll go ahead and pass this. We know there's some problems with it, but we'll fix it later. Well, they said that about the body cam bill, didn't they?
Yeah, that's been fixed, right?
And, yeah, it was fixed. They gave it some lip service and moved on.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. It's all smoke and mirrors.
Right. So now law enforcement agencies are still having to deal with the problems with the body cam legislation.
They're garbage legislation that they rushed out there in the wake of wokeness. And I guess that's a term that just us old people use. We don't understand.
Oh, what's the new term?
I don't know. AOC apparently came out with some.
Oh, and the new head of Twitter is going to make sure that you can't retweet anything that's negative towards liberals.
Yeah, wow. Censorship. Go figure that one.
And the new and the Biden nominee to the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, has said publicly numerous times Fox News should be banished and there shouldn't be talk radio. So
control the narrative.
So in my industry, this is what we're looking at.
If you can control the narrative, you control the people, and that's been done over and over throughout history.
Yeah.
It's being done right now in communist countries.
Yeah, no, it's really a shame. So, what do you? Well, we don't really know. I'm wondering how much our local legislators that are Republicans are even being included in any of these preliminary budget discussions and talks about.
God bless them. They are still fighting, but it's bleak. It's very bleak, and it was so great to sit and listen to them talk yesterday and interact with them, and in the face of just this tidal wave of liberal wokeness coming our way. I don't know how our state's going to recover. I really don't. Especially if this governor gets elected to a second term. We're going to be damaged potentially beyond repair, and it's frightening because I love this state.
Yeah.
A lot of us do, or we wouldn't be living here. But that was one of the things. I can't remember who brought it up, if it was Catherine or, but I think it was Catherine, said that what she's waiting for is basically the Biden tap on the shoulder, I think, to elevate her to a. She's still. I think that's what she said would, and I think I don't want to saddle Catherine with that, but one of them said that that's what they think is going to happen. Is that's what she's counting on, is she's going to get that shoulder tap and she can evacuate and go on and do great things on the national level.
That's going to be interesting because just kind of a political speculation standpoint, everything's kind of lining up towards a Republican sweep and take over the House and the Senate. So anything that, theoretically, anything that Biden tries to do, they could override. They could. There's a lot of things that could happen. So that might be a interesting place to go, unless you think you're fleeing something that's going to blow up on you.
Historically, in New Mexico, when there is a Democrat, and this is what I've been told, that when there's a Democrat president, we have a Republican governor. It's just that's been the flip-flop over the years. For whatever reason, it's followed that. So we have hope there that we might actually get someone in who can veto things. We've got quite a crew on the Republican side. Hopefully we can get some of that sorted out, and we don't eat our own trying to get there.
Yeah, that's true. Because there's a lot of really well-qualified, good people that are in the hunt. You're talking
every
about
candidate. Yeah, every candidate I've talked to, I said, please don't have the infighting.
Yeah.
Talk about what you're going to do good, not.
Yeah, and then I think whoever wins, the first thing they need to do is call Gary Johnson. Not anything about pot. Nothing to do with that. I'm sure he's quite happy if he even knows what's going on. But ask him where is his turbo-powered veto pen, and see if they can have a ceremonial transferring of the turbo-powered veto pen from Gary Johnson to whoever the new Republican governor is. And that's the only way, because that's what Johnson did.
Yeah.
It was because it was the Ray and Manny show when Johnson was governor. Ray Sanchez and Manny Aragon, and the only way he got them to break their hold and come to the table and actually negotiate was he just vetoed everything, and they couldn't quite override all the vetoes, and they finally had to sit down and say, okay, what do you want, and have some negotiations.
Susanna did a lot of vetoing.
She did, yeah. But they're going to need help with some Republicans to help sustain some of the vetoes too. So
right. Because I don't. We're not going to get a whole lot of traction in either one of the chambers. Now the Senate, maybe we might. I don't think we're going to take a majority, but I think we might get some folks in there. But that was one of the questions I asked, and to the legislators yesterday. I said, do we see? We saw a break at the Supreme Court. But, of course, and I do know Catherine said this. She said, it was definitely Catherine. She said, I'm not giving a badge of courage to any of the Democrats that took that to the Supreme Court on, the governor's spending habits. And she goes, because that was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, it was unconstitutional. They knew they were going to win that one. But I said, we saw a breaking of ranks, though. Well, a couple of those folks I know for a fact. One isn't running. Candelaria isn't running again, and I don't hold him in high regard. But there's others who have had issues within their party.
Right.
Ivy Soto has been embattled a little bit. And he and I used to be friends. I don't think we are so much anymore, but I think he changed his mind on that one. But and it's sad because I like the guy. Even though he does some stuff I don't like, I actually personally like him.
Yeah.
But I said, are we going to see more breaking of ranks? Or are they scared they're going to get primaried like John Arthur Smith and his the crew that got voted out with him, and they said, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know whether they're going to have the courage to stand up or not.
That's right. It's really a shame. We've got about little less than a minute left. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the folks this morning before we wrap up?
Looking around the state, looking around the country, again, I think I didn't allude to it. I said it earlier. We're blessed to be here. And I think folks in Eddy County really need to count their blessings. I know I do. We have it good here. We're a little insulated from it all. We have good folks, and we are blessed here. And I encourage people, and I know I don't have to for a lot, but there's a lot of people who do need to open their eyes up and look around and go, you know what, this is great. Where we live here in Eddy County is great. We've got good people, and enjoy it. Enjoy it while we can, because they're coming for us. Yep. I guarantee you they're coming for us.
Yep.
They don't like us.
No, but enjoy what we have, because it's very good. Sheriff Mark Cage, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to the news.
Almost.